been asked quite a few times how I got into metal, and I wanted to make an entire video dedicated to that, starting from the beginning and just going through my timeline as a metalhead. But I am also really excited to hear your guys' stories as to what really was the gateway into metal or hard rock music for you. How did you get down the rabbit hole? I would love to hear it, so let me know down in the comment section below your stories. So I grew up with a very eclectic musical family in terms of what people listen to. My dad actually is a big grunge fan, a big classic rock and heavy metal fan, but he alternatively also listened to a lot of hip-hop music, a lot of country music, and alternatively my mom was much more on the easy listening sort of side, the Barbra Streisand types of the world. So on one hand you had a parent that would listen to, you know, Soundgarden and Nirvana and Aerosmith, and on the other side of that you would have a mom that would listen to things like Barbra Streisand and Enya, and then you put me into the mix at the start, the advent in many ways of the modern internet. I came into my own right around the time that YouTube started to get off of the ground, and this was a very interesting time because I was born in 2000, and as a result of that, a lot of the properties and cartoons and games that I ended up really enjoying were from the 90s. But I also grew up as someone that was very much into like MMORPGs and JRPGs and online games and that sort of thing, and so to combine that with YouTube sort of blowing up, I started getting recommended lyric videos. This was back in the day when YouTube algorithms didn't necessarily mean much. It wasn't really good at what it did, it was trying its best, but in many ways it was like the Wild West in terms of so many different things that you would constantly be thrown, and so my musical taste developed from that. And so as a result of that, I got exposed to a lot of nu metal, alt rock, and alt metal. This kind of went hand in hand with the fact that a lot of the machinimas that I watched at the time and gameplay videos and anime AMVs, oh god, would always have like alt rock and alt metal and nu metal set as the backdrop OST of whatever it was. It was very rare to see a video that wasn't that. And so a lot of my early listening kind of came from that. I got into bands like Trapped, Saliva, POD, Linkin Park, Slipknot. All of these bands from that era were sort of my gateways, and it was exemplified by the fact that I used to like steal my dad's CDs back in the day. Like when I was really young, I had this fond fascination with physical media and CDs, and so I would steal music from him, and the very first CD I ever stole from him at like the ripe age of 7 or 8 was Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. And if I went through my CD collection to this day, I think it is still there. But it didn't stop there. So when I was getting into those sorts of songs that I was listening to, you know, the Puddle of Muzz and the, you know, Click Click Boom and Papa Roach's Last Resort and Headstrong by Trapped and Paralyzer by Finger 11 and all of those great songs and that sort of vibe, I was also introduced to another big gateway band to me from my first girlfriend when I was like 9 or 10. She was this crazy redheaded chick from Australia, and she was really into the band Breaking Benjamin. And she sent me this one song, if I remember correctly, it was I Will Not Bow, and from then on out, I started to get recommended a lot of other songs that were sort of in that wheelhouse. I ended up really enjoying Breaking Benjamin. And then going forward after that, I didn't necessarily believe in guilty pleasures. My personal music listening journey was always, if I liked it, I listened to it. It wasn't really deeper than that. I had a dubstep phase. I had a phase where I was really into hip-hop music. I had a K-pop phase. I had a phase where I was listening to nothing but like vocal synth, Vocaloid music, and Utao music. So I was always developing these musical tastes, but the bedrock of it was always like alt metal and nu metal and alt rock. Now, I've said this before on this channel, I have a very hyper-fixated personality, and so when I'm into something, I get very intensely into something. And when it came to metal and rock, I got very into discovery and music collecting, and so either through thrift stores or flea markets or just looking up online stuff, I was constantly trying to find new music to listen to, even if I didn't know anything about it. So I didn't really have the resources or know how to find these bands, but I was finding them anyway. This was before I really knew metal YouTubers. This was before I really knew much about the community itself. I just knew that I enjoyed the music, and through that I ended up discovering multiple albums that were very important important to my development as a metalhead, as a rock fan, as a punk fan. I ended up discovering Rise Against, which was really big for like post-hardcore music for me, as well as Alisana, specifically the album The Emptiness. I got As Daylight Dies by Killswitch Engage at a flea market in Ohio. I got Shadows Are Security by As I Lay Dying at another flea market around Charleston. I have very fond memories of picking up these albums because they ended up being the foundation for so much of my listening past that point. And my gateway into extreme forms of metal and just metal as a whole was nu metal, and then the pipeline went to metalcore and post-hardcore music. So around the late 2000s, early 2010s, metalcore was becoming more and more popular. You had two different breeds of it. You had the very scene metalcore sort of stuff, the Asking Alexandrias, Attack Attack, I See Stars, Inner Shikari, Bring Me the Horizon. And then on the other side, you had the very buff, gruff, and tough type of metalcore that you were getting from bands like As I Lay Dying and Killswitch Engage and Trivium and Atreyu and those sorts of bands. I ended up falling in love with both of them. I listened to like Stand Up and Scream by Asking Alexandria. I got Suicide Season and There's a Hell by Bring Me the Horizon very early on in my music collecting journey. I started getting into a lot of Sumerian record bands. That's how I discovered The Discovery by Born of Osiris, Eclipse by Veil of Maya. A lot of I See Stars' albums, specifically Treehouse, ended up being really important to me. And from there, it was no holds bars. There were definitely some bands that I heard a little bit too early in terms of I was like, holy shit, like this is so intense. Everyone knows that one moment where you listen to something a little too early, like you weren't entirely ready and your ears got assaulted, but then like a week later you're like, but I didn't entirely hate that. That was me with like, I would say Waking the Cadaver and Job for a Cowboy. Honestly, Tomorrow We Die Alive by Born of Osiris was up there, and then it just went downhill from there in terms of down the rabbit hole of extremity. I could not get enough of this music. I was researching every subgenre. I became a fucking walking encyclopedia. As is told by this channel, it became my entire life. And then I also started to use YouTube as an escapism, where I ended up discovering a lot of other YouTubers. So I watched an Anthony Fantano review of some metal album. I couldn't tell you what metal album. This was many, many years ago, like a decade plus ago. And he ended up talking about Cover Killer Nation in that video. And so I remember going to the link because he got shouted out, and I was like, wow, this dude is really cool. And thus I discovered the metal community and YouTube as a whole. And that's how I discovered Vital Vinyl Vlog, Wyatt XM, Brain Smasher, Cover Killer Nation, Killbot and Gorgor Attack, and so many other classic metal creators that ended up really giving me a lot of support through a lot of times in terms of just finding a connection, because outside of my best friend, I didn't really know that many people that were into metal. Most of the friends that I had were either gamers that liked like pop music or heavy rap music and that sort of thing, and so I was kind of the weird alt kid in many ways. My interests did not align with a lot of the people I surrounded myself with. And then of course I got into a bunch of different labels that got me more down the rabbit hole. You know the names: Nuclear Blast Records, Season of Mist, Century Media, Metal Blade Records, Profound Lore Records, all of those great labels. And then in late 2017, I had a very nasty leg injury that pretty much knocked me flat on my ass for quite a few months. And that was around the time I was really close to this one friend, and we started this channel as like a miniature gaming channel where we just do a bunch of dumb variety content, and that's pretty much what I did to begin with. It was all over the place, but then I was like, I kind of want to give this a chance. I want to bust my ass at this, and you know, I got really dedicated to it, even when no one was watching. There was a period I did a list week for like 5 viewers, and I was doing 30-40 minute long fully edited videos with my shitty little laptop webcam and Walmart headset. So believe in your dreams, kids. Overall though, my metal journey was always something that was very personal to me because I didn't necessarily share it with that many people, but that's how I got to where I am, and I'm so excited to hear your stories as well. If you have any more questions about my specific metal journey or bits and pieces of this video that you'd like me to go more in depth with, let me know down in the comment section below, and I will be sure to answer them as soon as I can. But be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.